So I believe that we finished with Jesus' words. You are those who have continued with me in my trial, and I assign to you as my Father assigned to me a kingdom, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and sit on the thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. That is Luke 22, and that's 29, verse 29. If you see, we just there is nothing parallel. There's no such words in John. John structured his Last Supper discourse differently, completely differently, which is so. And there's nothing in Mark. And what in Matthew 20, 27, 27. So the Son of Man shall sit on his throne, sit on his glorious throne. You have followed me, will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and where it is not the Last Supper. In Matthew, it is a discourse on the way, when the disciples when two brothers, I mean Zebedee's brothers, came to him and asked about privileged places, seats on the right and the head. So then Jesus said these words. So it shall not be so among you. I mean, the rulers of the Gentiles and so on and so forth. Luke puts this thing at the Last Supper. At the Last Supper. And as we heard, as we discussed last time, I'll just remind you. So after the communion, so to say, as Luke describes it, as a Seder celebration, right? So, which is, even Jewish celebration is liturgically structured. So you cannot kind of get your own, let's say, texts into it. It's like as if during the liturgy, all of a sudden, with a serving together, let's say bishop, deacons, and myself, all of a sudden, after communion, instead of finishing and concluding the service, we start to quarrel in the altar or in front of you. Who is the most important, bishop or myself or deacons? So it would be a very strange picture, I believe. So in the Seder, so obviously Jesus gives different kind of frame to it. So he fills this frame with a new content, better to say. But as soon as we finish it, and Jesus announces that one of those who were present will betray him. And they began to question one another, which of them it was that would do this. As we remember in Luke, it is Luke 22, 21, 23. And right after that, a dispute also arose among them, which of them was to be regarded as the greatest. And then Jesus said to them, so the kings of the Gentiles, so what we also read in Matthew in different setting. But not with you. Rather, let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as the one who serves. For which is the greater, one who sits at table or one who serves? It is not the one who sits at table, but I am among you as one who serves. Yeah, so he kind of establishes, so to say, the order and inverses this order. And then all of a sudden he takes them into his kind of agapa, in communion with him. You are those who have continued with me in my trials. And I assign to you, as my Father assigned to me, a kingdom, that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and sit on the thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So let's say if we compare it with John, let's say in his thing, it's a parallel discourse, but different. He said, "You are my friends. I'm not calling you any longer my servants, my slaves, because the servants and slaves don't know what the master doing, but I call you friends because I have revealed to you all that I kind of received from my Father." Here we say, that is his invitation to them. He extends his invitation from this table, from this Eucharistic action, first Eucharist, right? First Eucharist. Then the dispute. Then the resolution of this dispute with inversion. And then this invitation. Before we go on, any comments and discussions?
Father, could you talk about what does it mean by judging the 12 tribes of Israel?
You pierced me. You won. David. What do you think? What do you think, widow? May I ask you a question? If you're in a position, how you would judge the 12 tribes of Israel? What? I don't know. But this point is not taken just by a look. In the revelation of John, which was started in Russian, by the way, but we didn't end to the end. In the New Jerusalem, there are 12 gates, and each gates have the name of the 12 apostles of the lambs who are sitting judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So it's not just there are 12 of them. So in Jesus' words, that means there's a fulfillment. Where's the fulfillment of the Old Testament? There's a kind of big theological discussion, particularly in the 20th century after the Holocaust and everything, that God does not definitely remove his election of Israel as a people of the covenant. So nothing is said about that, this covenant stopped or completely replaced. And Jesus doesn't say that I replace it. Everywhere he says it's fulfillment. It's brought to fulfilling, that's all. So his 12 disciples are the fulfillment of the 12, and who is going to judge these 12 tribes of Israel? As we remember, they are the names of the 12 sons of Jacob, right? That's why they sons of Israel. But if we remember these personalities, so the short Benjamin and Joseph, sons of Rachel, the others were simply murderers because they wanted to murder their brother. you know, and Reuben saved him. He said, okay, let's not kill the lad. Let's sell him. We'll get some profits, and there will be no blood on our hands. That's how he saved him. But he saved him from the knife, So even from the point of view of judgment, it's who is going to judge 12 tribes of Israel? I have no idea.
But in the apocalypse, they're
Yes.
just the peoples, they are not descendants, the tribes, and it's the Ancient of Days, no? There is this Ancient of Days who has the double-edged sword, no?
I think, yes, you are right. You are right. Obviously, it's supreme judge is Jesus himself, as he said in John in 5th. My Father gave me all judgment to the Son because he is the Son of Man. So he kind of shared the human condition. But what is referred to? It is referred to establishment of judges by Moses in the book of Exodus. You remember when he was completely tired of his functions, he was sitting with his father-in-law, Yethro, and he said, "I'm so tired. I was judging them, ruling all these people." And he said, you're doing yourself to death. Just appointed judges over them. And so we can find it, but it's just I believe that's what it refers to. Very often, but not exactly. I don't think it's correct. Jesus is compared to Moses as a new Moses. Nothing at all. It's not the kind of this kind of replacement. It's something different. But the allusion, I believe, is to appointment of local local, the Supreme Court, and there's a local courts, right? That's about it. That's reasonable, I think. David, are you satisfied with our reflections on the issue, or what do you think?
I understand your reference to the biblical reference and what it might allude to, but I didn't understand what it means existentially for us.
Neither do I. First of all, let's see. I'm not sure that I'm going to get into the position of judgment yet. That's I'm not sure about myself. So if at this point of my life, the issue for me, how I'm going to judge at least one tribe of Israel, is moot for me. I don't think that I'm up to it yet.
Is the 12 tribes of Israel really meant only that, or the world?
No, obviously yes. Obviously yes.
Yeah.
That's but that's exactly what the New Testament does. Mm-hmm. He turns the world into Israel.
Right.
Because what is Israel? It's not just ethnic community. It's a people of the covenant, right? Otherwise, what's the point? So there are so many ethnic communities in the world, and so ethnicities. So it is a people of the covenant. But since Jesus just established a new covenant, it's a new, just before that, look, he said, it is at the same table. Yeah. This cup which is poured out for you is a new covenant in my blood. It just said maybe half an hour before, this conversation. So
and then I would ask that this is mentioned about the 12 apostles.
Yes.
But the history of the church, the period of the apostles were rather short. And the apostles were no longer functioning after that. They would just sort of become something else.
You know,
And
look. No. First of all, we are talking about the, this universal. It's a last judgment, so to say.
yeah,
So it's a judgment beyond, and it is not. It's not in consideration of the church. The apostles, just disappeared. They then in somehow then a different realm, but even accessible to us. Let's say Roman Catholic Church, the new election of the Pope, a new Pope is elected. All cardinals go and and kiss his hands. What they say, you are Peter, you are Peter, you are Peter. So it is not that he replaced Peter. He functions in the authority of Peter, who remains the head of the Catholic Church in their understanding. In our thing, it's Saint Andrew, Saint Thomas, John the theologian, and so on and so forth. So it is not that, and it's exactly the point of the book of Revelation, when it says that the 12 apostles of the Lamb who is judging. So, but look, don't ask me what is beyond visible. We read the words, that's all. So how can we interpret it? There is a tradition of interpretation, not tradition. There's a, let's say, Bible simple thing. So if we're talking about new covenant, we don't know what covenant is unless we know what is old covenant. Then we compare what new covenant with old covenant. Then we have some kind of idea how old covenant functions, now how the new covenant is going to function. There were judges in the temporal realm. They're supposed to be judges in the kind of super temporal, over them. If it is agreeable with you guys.
And what about people who are outside the covenant, both old and new?
You ask me the question which are not covered in our text. But look, Larissa, it is covered in a different part of the text, not completely here. There is a very look. I have to find it for you. But so just recently, before we started the land, what we read Matthew, so-called the parable on the last judgment. The parable of the last judgment. You all remember it, I think. If not, I can remind you. Let us ask Mary. She obviously has her Bible with her. At Matthew 25, 31 to the end.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate them from one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep at his right hand, but the goats at the left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, "Come, O blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see thee hungry and feed thee, or thirsty and give thee drink? And when did we see thee a stranger and welcome thee, or naked and clothe thee? And when did we see thee sick or in prison and visit thee?" And the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brethren, you did it to me. Then he will say to those at his left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me, naked and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison and you did not visit me. Then they will also answer, Lord, when did we see thee hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister to thee? Then he will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it not to one of the least of these, you did it not to me. And they will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life.
Now, do you take this as an answer or some kind of elucidation of the question of the issue? I
Although
just want, yeah. go ahead.
Matthew 25 seems to be divided into two parts. The part that he said and judge, and the part before, which is where we're living.
Okay.
And that part is very clear, the second part. I mean, it's crystal clear. Difficult, but clear. The first part is the one that is sort of, we don't quite understand because we're not there yet.
I mean,
And-
what do you mean? The second
Well,
part?
we
Oh,
mean,
judgment.
yeah, and it seems like in Matthew 25, Christ was sitting there as the king and judge and the Lord. And there's no mention about the 12 apostles or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So that's number one. And I just also think that is the book of Revelation, which we have not studied yet, and we did it a long time ago, is that the language is so difficult and strange. Is it because that it can only be described like that?
That's a question. First of all, let me try to not to answer, but to comment on the first part of this Matthew 25. What is remarkable first? What it seems remarkable to me in these things? It's epistemology, so to say, of this passage. What I mean, neither righteous nor not righteous do not understand what he's talking about. They act in their, not I would say innocence, but in their ignorance rather. First and second. First of all, what's interesting, he gathered all the nations. All the nations. All the nations is clear. Panta ethnics, ethnoses, all nations, correct. It's not a religion. It's not the people of covenant. That's the whole world, all nations. Whether they knew about one God, whether they kind of were aware of the, of this legislation of Moses, nothing is said about it. It's interesting. And, the people who to whom these words are addressed, they don't understand what he was talking about. So that is his mystery, where he could be found, in whom he would be found. And that's, actually, that's about human compassion. Do we have human compassion? If you have human compassion, go ahead. If you kind of completely, void of it, go to different, I don't know how. It's obviously, it is very, 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 kind of strong words. It's very kind of, the picture is kind of where you're going, where you're going, when you remember yourself, you know, and how kind of you be in everyday situation, by the way, in everyday situation. So we were surrounded by this. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about Matthew right now. It is my attempt not to answer Larissa's question, but to, let's say, to direct it somehow into a little bit different direction, to show that it is also covered, but differently. And you dude, you point very cleverly that 12 apostles are not even 12 apostles are not even mentioned here. They have nothing to do with it. So it's interesting chapter, by the way. It's not even chapter. It's interesting disclosure. It's not even parable, because it's not called parable. And it is the last. In Matthew, that's what the king said the last. That's it. After that goes, you know, passion story and the resurrection. So that's his. But let us come back to what we're doing here. So the first covenant, a new covenant is announced, and this covenant is a fulfillment of the previous covenant, and that's what he appoints his apostles. So they going to judge. How are they going to judge? Who is going to be included? Kind of. And I don't think that, you know, that issue, this issue, really were important for them. They understood it directly, you know. Oh, 12 tribes of Israel, so you know, we're Israelites, we're going to judge them. But the most important, that he invites them right in front of his passions, before, about which they still did not have any clue that it's going to. So he repeatedly said to them what's going to happen. They didn't believe. They couldn't imagine that. So that's all, you know, but he invites them. He invites them. They don't quite understand that it's going to happen beyond. And that's, you know, exactly, you know, after the covenant. First of all, look, covenant is established. Right after that, Jesus points on the presence of a betrayer among them. You know, this is a very dangerous thing, because they're a small group of people around their teacher and leader. If there's a betrayer, everything might, you know, and that's exactly what happened. The leader was arrested and then killed, martyred, sentenced to death and executed. And this, you know, and they ran away. So in terms, you know, if we're not talking about Jesus as the one who resurrected, in the view of ourselves as a continuation, you know, look at this from the point of view of unbeliever. That's it. It's a story of the past. And not even like Loisy, and a modernist, you know, in a 19th century Catholic modernist theologian, Argentamente, and so on and so forth. He said, Jesus announces the coming of the kingdom. And what came? Catholic Church for 2,000 years, suppressing all others and so on and so forth. This is the kingdom. So you see, you can look at this with different eyes on this story. You know. Jesus said something, but because we believe in the resurrection and what happened after that, because that's exactly what we do. But if we don't, then it's all stopped. It's all nonsense. There's no point in it, you know. So where then all questions, you know, Yeah, they're going to kind of to judge and what about these wars? What about these inquisitions? What about what's going on now? The Russian Church, you know, kind of blessing the genocide in Ukraine, and it's not the only thing. You know, let's turn what happened, let's say 50 years ago. Theology of liberation in South America, when there were, you know, all this juntas, and most of the Catholic Church was cooperated with that. You know, I saw this movie, very good film about the present Pope, two popes, I believe it was. And, you know, and the story about this present, who is looks like a saintly man, that when he was a young Jesuit, he was a provincial head, and he was cooperating with junta. That's his two brothers, two brothers Jesuits who were arrested at that time. They forgave him later. But how he acted the same way as, the bishops today in Russia, under the same, different junta, but, with atomic bombs. So what's new about it? So who's going to judge whom? That's, look, it's life. Okay, so about this dispute ended. And then he invites them. So you will be sitting at my table. He just said, right here I'm serving to you, but you'll be sitting at my table there. So he extends it beyond obviously very known and feared edge in our own existence. That means our physical death. For us, it's a real death. Jews speak some about the second death. We don't know anything about second death, but we're very much afraid of the first, of this one, which is kind of surrounds us. Not in case of, right now myself, but let's say of my friend who just passed away. I mean, or people who just, who killed around. So that's the first death. And he invites them beyond that, but they don't quite understand it. Now, what follows? And what follows, if we stop about it, to next. And next words are very interesting and unique to Luke. If we finish with that, we can go to 31, 34. Luke 22, 31, 34. Mary, if you read it for us.
Mm-hmm. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you that he might sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brethren. And he said to him, Lord, I'm ready to go with you to prison and to death.
Let's stop here first, because, that's, let's think about this particular passage, which is unique to Luke 31, 32. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you. That's common here, and it's true. To demand to you, it's mean plural you, that he might sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you, singular, for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brethren. We don't have any parallel. What about Satan, who demanded? From whom he demanded? From God. What kind of right he has to demand? And why he's supposed to sift them? And what does it mean to sift them like wheat? Can you answer this questions? Do you understand this passage? I don't understand this passage.
Well, it is scary.
Exactly, David. It is very scary.
But this sounds like, the book of Job too, in the beginning.
Yeah, it is. It's very scary. Why? And he doesn't say demanded. Let me see. Let me demanded 31. Exetisato imas to siniasai os. Exetisato. Demanded. It's translated, not just asked. He didn't pray. He doesn't pray. Satan doesn't. He demands from God. And, and God needs Jesus to pray for one. But I asked for you that he might hear. He asked permission. Satan asked, give me permission. So he had some rights on us. He has some rights to demand these things. To sift this. I don't know. To sift as which, what does it mean, Who is going to kind of, if you ask me, I don't know. But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. Extremely important. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brethren. You turn again. Peter does not understand what's going on. He does understand that he's going to kind of to abdicate 3 times. And that's exactly what how he answers. And that's what Jesus will tell him. But that's in other Gospels. They all 4 will talk about this Peter's prediction about his abdications and his repentance and so on and so forth. It's a complete personal failure for Peter, because he's just saying, but anyway, but what this particular little passage, and we cannot even compare it with anything. At least I cannot. Maybe you can. But I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail. And then we have turned again, strengthen your brethren.
I just want to bring up something not related to this, but in Luke in general.
Okay.
Luke is the gospel that in the temptation of Christ that has this little passage at the end that he will come back, Satan, in the opportune time. Not every other synoptic has it.
Wait, please repeat it. I don't.
In the temptation in the desert of Christ.
It's Luke said, right?
Yes, Luke said that Satan will come back in the opportune time.
Interesting. It's
Yeah,
very.
nature
doesn't have that, And
no. And it's also I always wonder, Luke's Lord's Prayer doesn't have the last 2, and deliver us, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Doesn't have it?
No.
Interesting. I never paid attention to that.
Yeah, and
I never paid attention to that.
And here he is, kept talking about entering into Judas, and mentioning about sifting Peter's, also doesn't have, the other synoptic doesn't have that.
No, they don't have that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. If we cannot say anything about it, let's put a question mark and just invite you to reflect on it. Maybe we'll come next time. It will be after Easter, though, because next time it will be, the liturgy of Great Saturday Sunday. So, but next time I believe it's worthy to remember this particular passage. I don't think it's idle passage. I think.
I just looked up the Lord's Prayer in Luke. In my version, which is
Yeah.
synodal translation into Russian, it does have those two lines.
Which?
The last line, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Okay, give me please the chapter. I look in, there might be different versions.
It's
And
11,
no, wait, Larissa, I can't hear you. There's some kind of,
it's
repeat.
Luke, it's Luke 11:4.
11:4.
Yes,
Luke 11:4. Wait a second. We just find Luke 11:4.
maybe the good Russian translators added it so that it so it's just the same as another synoptic.
No, I tell you, it is. It happens because look. Wait a second. Look. I have to find. I have to find it.
No?
I have to find it here because it's a different arrangement. I need to.
RSV doesn't have the last one about the evil one.
Who doesn't have?
Revised Standard Version.
They
doesn't.
don't have. Yeah. So it's one of the versions. Because there are many versions and so on and so forth. So they kind of maybe some of them, but I cannot find it right now. It's let me write it down, and I don't want to keep your time with these things. Look, 11,
4.
11:4.
Yes.
11:4. Our Father. Okay. Okay. David. So actually, as far as the text is concerned, we'll next time find it or just late. I just want to continue a little bit because the time is coming. Yeah, it's at 10:44. We still have time. And now let's do what's the rest. What the rest? Let's get 30, 32, 34 about Peter.
He said, I tell you, Peter, the cock will not crow this day until you have 3 times denied that you know me.
So these things in all four disciples. In Matthew, it is false. In Matthew, in the Last Supper, they went out to the Mount of Olives. It's already on the way to the Mount of Olives in Matthew. It is 26, 30, 35. If you look. Then Jesus said to them, you will all fall away because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee. After I will raised up, Peter declared to him, though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. Jesus said to him, truly I say to you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. And so said all the disciples. That's Matthew. The same story in Mark, in different words. On the way to the Mount of Olives, what he said. After I'm raised up, I will go before you to Galilee. Peter said to him, even though they all fall away, I will not. The same thing. In John, It is in the very beginning of the Last Supper discourse of Jesus, right after the washing of the feet to the disciples. It's still 13th chapter. And it's interesting how it's introduced in John. Jesus said, as I said before to the Jews, I am saying to you, where I am going, you cannot follow me. But later you may follow me. You may follow. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? He said, when I'm going, as I said to the Jews, I say to you, where I'm going, you cannot follow me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? It is John 13, 36, 38, if you wish. Lord, where are you going? Jesus answered, where I am going, you cannot follow me now. But you shall follow afterward. You know the story, and it is obviously in tradition. It's not that Peter also was crucified, but legs up. So Peter said to him, Lord, why cannot I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. And then he said the same thing. Will you lay down your life for me? Truly, true, I say to you, the cock will not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Okay, that's clear about Peter, it seems to me. There's no question. But what follows is interesting. Because what follows, also unique to only to Luke. And it is, I don't think that it's unquestionable. Let us read it. After he said that to Peter, the cock will not crow today until you three times will deny me. Now, Luke 22, 35, 38. Mary.
And he said to them, when I sent you out with no purse or bag or sandals, did you lack anything? They said nothing. He said to them, but now let him who has a purse take it, and likewise a bag. And let him who has no sword sell his mantle and buy one. For I tell you that this scripture must be fulfilled in me. And he has reckoned with transgressors. And he was reckoned with transgressors. For what is written about me has its fulfillment. And they said, look, Lord, here are 2 swords. And he said to them, it is enough.
Now, how do you understand this passage? Only in Luke. Let him sell his mantle, whatever you have, whatever you have, even important thing, and buy a sword. We have 2 swords here for 12 people, and he's 13th. Oh, Judah is not with them any longer. Okay, 11, 12 with Jesus, 2 swords. What's they going to do with them?
Later on, he told them to put away the sword when fasting.
Exactly. He will say, the one who raises a sword will die from the sword. So, and Peter will use his sword, as we'll know. We'll read about it in this scene in the Gethsemane. But what are you thinking?
Someone asked me recently about this word. It is enough. Whether it means 2 swords is enough, or isn't enough talking about it. And I looked it up in Greek, and it appears, as far as I could tell, that it means two is enough, sufficient.
Ik kan honesty. Ik kan honesty. Okay. But let's say, let's go step by step. First part of his question, what about it? He said to him, when I send you out with no purse or bag or sandal, did you lack anything? He said, nothing. So they were supplied. Even when they went by two, they were not armed. They didn't have anything, that they had everything. There was kind of, Jesus' presence with them. Jesus' presence with them was sufficient for them. That's exactly what they answered. But right before his trials, so he's withdrawn. He's now a victim. He's now a lamb. He's not an agent any longer. He is patient. They are on their own. That's what it means, at least as I understand it now. So, by now, let whom he has purse take it. You will need your own money now. And likewise a bag, you will be carried on your own now. Now, what he said to them, you are on your own. Before, I was your shield, I was your fortress, I was completely surround you from all sides. You didn't need anything with me. And that's how they are accustomed to that. For them, in spite that they were surrounded by all kind of opponents and dangers, and it's not in Luke, but in any way, even when Thomas said, let's go and die with him, then they come and he raised up Lazarus. So they believed that they were protected completely. So, okay, I don't want to go to compare with other evangelists. But I just want to elucidate how it seems to me. It may be my interpretation, but and him who has no sort now, but you have to supply yourself. You need to pay your way. You need to have your bag. And you need to defend yourself now. That's why you need the words. And then we said, two, okay, enough. You didn't understand me quite. Because then say, put up this, these words. When Peter used it, enough of it, he said. It's stupid, In magic, I could call my father, he will send me 12 legions of angels, against all this thing. I don't need this. So it's not for me. These two swords is not for me, it's for you. Enough. I mean, that's how it is. That's how I get these things. And you are on your own. Oh, Richard or Larissa.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Because what you haven't mentioned, that suddenly strikes me in this little passage is where he says, for I tell you that this scripture must be fulfilled in me, and he was reckoned with transgressors. For what is written about me has its fulfillment. And does he mean to say that by taking their purses and their bags and swords, they become transgressors? Or that they fulfill this scripture that is written about him, which he says must be fulfilled?
For I tell you that this scripture must be fulfilled in me. It's interesting. Yes, yes. And he was reckoned with the transgressors. For what is written about me has its fulfillment. I mean,
And
when
says,
he
well,
was, you know, he is.
they say we have two swords. He said, okay, that's enough.
It is not they who will be transgressors.
But look, Richard, I understand it in the same line. So because I'm now with transgressors, I'm not protected by the law. The law is against me. So I mean, you are on your own. That means, but I am among transgressors now.
Yeah, okay.
So you know, I am outcast. I'm, you know, from where he's, you know, he's going to leave them here in this life, in this kind of where they weren't together. He protected them here on this side of the, so to say, story. Now he's thrown outside of it. He's killed. You know, we don't know for how long, but we know that it will take place at least until the resurrection, where they first come to kind of things. And then with the Pentecost, it's also, you know, it's all in Luke. Luke is very consistent in showing, you know, this dynamics of this, so to say, God and man, let's say. This life and the life beyond, whatever comes from here. But we'll deal with this dynamics. But right now, and it's interesting. I think that Luke is very consistent even in small things to what he's saying here. Now I am I'm reckoned with the transgressors. I'm your rabbi, your teacher, the Son of Man, the Messiah of Israel, who delivers Israel. What the Messiah point is, Messiah's point. Anointed one as a king, by the way, because Messianic is a Messianic king, you know, only king is anointed. He's a king of Israel. But I'm reckoned with transgressors. You will ask me, how come? Because what is written about me is fulfilled. You might not have been, you might not have understood it correctly, but that's exactly what it is. That the Messiah will be reckoned with the transgressors. Does it make sense to you?
He also didn't we have some sort of like a hint of this before when he said that you will be delivered, you know, previously in another chapter, you will be delivered up even by parents and brothers and kinsmen and friends. You'll be hated all for my name's sake, but not a hair on your head will perish, for by your endurance you will gain your lives. So it's like they're on their own by their own, they have to exercise their own sort of will to work with the help that he can provide them in some sense.
But Isaac, yeah, but before you didn't need anything. You were supplied in everything. You were completely you were completely taken care of. Now care for yourself, guys. You need purse, you need bag, and you need a sword to defend yourself. Does make sense? It does. All right, dear friends, what we are here, it's 11. It's already 11 o'clock. So, and there's a big now they're going to Gethsemane. Unfortunately, we will read this next week we'll go through, but then we'll return at it on the bright week. Already it will be past for us as a celebrants, but it still remains. Oh, because it's a long story. If we take it right now, it will take us for another hour or even more. So because that's a lot in this things. It's a lot to say. So I suggest that we finish today. Okay. So have a whoever is not within the jurisdiction of our little church, have a good Palm Sunday tomorrow. Those who are in jurisdiction are welcome, obviously, to our Palm Sunday tomorrow, and then the Holy Week. Okay, God bless you all. Bye-bye, dear friends.
Thank you. Bye.